you're pretty early in the meeting. You're the very person to do the opening prayer. Okay? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Father. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our penultimate ordinary council meeting for the year, unless we have any special meetings. But welcome to our November council meeting for 2019. It's great to see so many people here, members of the public. I want to start the meeting in a very purposeful and meaningful manner in acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we meet upon, the Butchulla people, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Our first item is opening prayer by Father Regimen Gervasis from St. Joseph's Catholic Church. Good morning, Father. Yeah.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for these wonderful people in our council to look after us and guide us. Lord, you are the source of every good life, every good gift, and you have entrusted our Mayor George and the councillors to share your authority and service on your people. Let everything be according to your wisdom and help them to continue the good works you have entrusted them. Let the people, let the land enjoy your blessings through the wonderful and great work of this council. And may the Spirit guide in each decision, in each activity, and in our everyday life. We make this prayer in the name of Jesus, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father. The next item is item 2, apologies and leave of absence. However, I might, before we go to that, go to item 10.1.2, councillor leave of absence, on page 64. This is approving the leave of absence for Councillor Dennis Chapman.
I'll move that.
This is, sorry, yeah, sorry, I know I've just changed the order in a way we've never done before. On page 64, the 2, councillor leave of absence, just so that, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, with your indulgence,
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn
Oh, sorry.
how to do this on the computer
Yeah.
system, and I've got it now.
That's
but
right.
I'm happy to
Page numbers
Yeah.
and points,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry I'm a bit slow.
This is the leave of absence for Councillor Chapman. It's moved by Councillor Everard, seconded by Councillor Maddern. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. I'm sorry, Councillor Taylor, you're on the line, aren't you?
We're just having a technical difficulty. Maybe if we could just maybe hold for a minute or two.
Okay.
Right, Mr. Mayor?
We have Councillor Stuart Taylor is attending, hopefully, via telephone. Sorry, so isn't that an agenda there under the papers?
Yeah, but I've been there
Yeah.
to test them for the
Oh, okay.
councillors.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's
yeah, yeah, okay, good. All right. I'll be,
this is the document of last resort.
yes.
Is that
Stuart, can you hear?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Done.
Right.
Save the day again.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor, and thank you for attending via Telelink. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you
Thanks.
perfectly.
So before going on to item 2, we've gone to item 10.1.2, which is Councillor Chapman's leave of absence, and we're just taking the vote now. It's moved by Councillor Everard, seconded by Councillor Mattern. Perhaps what we'll do is, when I call all in favour, you can say aye. All in favour? Oh, sorry, depending on how you vote, but that's how we'll do it during the meeting. I'm not telling you how to vote. All in favour?
Aye.
All opposed? That's carried unanimously. We'll go back to item 2, apologies and leave of absence. There are no apologies, as Councillor Taylor's online and Councillor Chapman has leave. Item 3, are there any disclosures of interest? Councillor Mattern?
Yes, I do, please. I have, it's in relation to item 15.1, request for a memorial in Anzac Park. It's in confidential, so I'll be careful how I state this. I declare a perceived conflict of interest in this matter, as I've been supporting the family who are requesting the memorial, and I propose leaving the room. Is that sufficient?
If you're leaving the room, you don't
Yeah,
need to say
yeah,
much more at
no.
all, I don't think.
No,
Yeah.
I'm leaving the room.
Yeah. Any further disclosures of interest? Remember, if one comes to you during the meeting, you can raise it at any time. It's best if you raise it now, but don't hold it in because you think you've missed the opportunity. Item 4 is mayoral minutes. There are no mayoral minutes. Item 5, confirmation of the October meeting, page 5. Is there a mover that be accepted? Councillor Truscott, seconded by Councillor Mattern. All in favour? All opposed?
Aye.
That's carried unanimously. Item 6, public participation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had 5 people present at public participation today. The first person was Carla Reardon, who raised 2 issues. The first issue was that she would like the council to consider a graffiti art project at Torquay Skate Park and training for council staff to effectively deal with drug-impacted youths. And the second issue was that she would like the council to consider providing traineeships for youth at risk. The second speaker was Peter Monson. He raised concerns in relation to dust nuisance on Arbour Crescent Road and requested council to 1, introduce a lower speed limit to reduce dust, and 2, level a gully adjacent to the road to allow him to maintain that area. The third participant was Susan Denton. She requested the council to bitumise Bankton Road and sought advice from council in relation to what it would take to make it a formed road. The fourth speaker was Aluka Clifton. She raised concerns about plastics and the impact on marine animals and requested the council remove the use of single plastic straws at all council events, venues and council supported events. The fifth speaker was Graham Woad. He raised the following concerns. Firstly, that he asked the council to install a pole in all outdoor tables to provide shade. Secondly, he thanked the council for undertaking lighting maintenance in the Portside area. Thirdly, he provided suggestions for the Maryborough Admin Building current site after demolition. And fourthly, he updated the council on a range of flooding issues. That's my verbal report, Mr. Mayor.
If there's no further speakers, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed?
Aye.
That's carried unanimously. Item 8.1, receipt of petitions. Councillor Light.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a petition from Burham Heads area, and the chief petitioner is Angela Gamble. It's got 246 signatures on it. I'll now read the headline of the petition. we, the undersigned, request the Fraser Coast Regional Council to consider constructing a 25-metre swimming pool in Barham Heads Sports Reserve. The pool to be used by residents and visitors of the Barham Heads community, learn to swim, lessons, lap swimming, aerobic fitness and rehab and other general use. It is current with our standing orders how it's being put together, so I put this to give to the CEO.
So you're moving that?
Moving 3C, sorry. Referred to the CEO.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Hanson, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed?
Aye.
That's carried unanimously. Is there any further petitions?
Anyone else?
Councillor Everard?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I've got a couple of petitions. The first one I'll present is from Mr Tony Russell from 74 Parklands Boulevard, Wundunna. So the nature of the petition is we, the undersigned, the residents of Parklands Estate in Wundunna, petition the Fraser Coast Council. Point 1, increase signage on Durlong Road, specifically in the sections between the intersections of College Way and Mags Hill Road, to raise awareness of wildlife in the area, with signs that indicate emergency contact details of native animals, native animal welfare agencies. Point 2 is that council undertakes a review of the speed limit on Durlong South Road, specifically between the crossroads mentioned in point 1, in relation to the number of native animal issues. As an example, kangaroo deaths. And the third one is increase the level of street lighting in Durlong South Road between the intersections of College Way and Mags Hill Road due to concerns about the conflict between machine and animals. So there's 37 signatures on that one, and I'd like to present that to the CEO, please.
You move that the petition be received and referred to the Chief Executive Officer for action.
Yep.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Lewis, put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Do you have another petition?
Yeah, I do. But it's not properly made.
That's okay.
So
It's
anyway,
never stopped us before.
yeah, never stopped us before. I did present. Yeah. Anyway, righto. So petition to this is from Lynn and Doug Lowe, who are residents of College Park Estate, but it doesn't have their actual address. But anyway, petition is the objection to the new road access from Hakeland Drive to the low density residential development, application number MCU 180046. And there in this one we have 60 signatures, and the chief petitioner, is Fiona Walton.
Yep.
And I'd like to present this to the CEO, please.
Yep. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Madden, I'll put that motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Are there any further petitions? The next item is item 9.1, Wide Bay Water and Waste Services Advisory Committee meeting on page 25. Yep.
Sorry, Mr Mayor.
Yep. The recommendation on page 25. Yep. Yep. Is there a seconder? Councillor Everard, did you wish to speak to it?
No, it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, and we are talking about water later, so. Yeah. Just speak, any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. The next item is item 9.2, the Fraser Coast Regional Council Audit Committee meeting minutes on page 31. Councillor Truscott's moving this. Is there a seconder? Councillor Lewis, did you wish to speak to it? No? Are there any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed?
Aye.
That's carried unanimously. Item 10.1.1 is the open resolutions register for November, page 36. Were there any questions on this for the CEO? Councillor Truscott.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a quick question on page 56 about the Greener Fraser Coast one. Just to check, I appreciate it, it says that there should be more information coming to council in November or December, just to see if there's any update that we can be advised of regarding the Cool Streets initiative.
Yeah, Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Truscott. So the project is progressing at an operational level. We're just seeking a couple of quotes to market test the proposal. So we have the proposal from Cool Streets, but in order to comply with our procurement rules, we just need to market test that. So we're going through that process at the moment to get a couple of other similar quotes, noting that it's a proprietary program, but there are other landscape architecture firms that do similar types of work. So once we've got that and been able to assess and ensure that it's the quote that we have is value for money, we'll bring that back to council.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Is there a mover for that recommendation that it be received and noted? Moved Councillor Everard, seconded by Councillor O'Keefe. I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried unanimously. We've done item 10.1.2, the leave of absence. 10.1.3, fireworks at council events and council-sponsored events 2019. I was going to move a slightly different resolution to the recommendation. So the recommendation is that council preclude the use of fireworks at council events or council-supported events during the 2019 Christmas and New Year festive. Yeah, I'm putting forward an alternative one. So I'll read through the motion as it is, and it's up there, and then I'll speak to it. That council support New Year's Eve celebrations within the Fraser Coast region, but without the direct or indirect use of council funding for fireworks. Donate the sum of $10,000, excluding GST, to the Queensland Bushfire Appeal to assist families and communities that have been impacted by the devastation caused by the recent and current bushfires in Queensland. This being slightly more than the amount spent on fireworks at the last New Year's Eve celebrations on the Fraser Coast, and seek to involve the region's rural fire brigades in the New Year's Eve events. Before I speak to that, I'll have to make sure there's a seconder. Councillor Light seconding it. I could say this was a hard decision, but it was actually an easy decision for me. Sometimes you just trust your instincts, and I don't think right now fireworks are appropriate. How we celebrate New Year's Eve is how we intend to live our lives, I think, in the new year. And right now, when there's fires across the country, the forecast is not good. Right now, there's 2 fires, uncontrolled fires on Gari, Fraser Island, and at Whoop Whoop. That's our road at Boompa. Yeah. There's a fire which we cannot get to. And we know the risks going into the actual summer. I think that there are more appropriate ways we can celebrate New Year's than creating more fire risk, especially when there are so many people who have been so badly affected across the country. I think there's enough time, 5 weeks now or about, to plan other festivities, and we already have live music and other events lined up. This doesn't actually stop community groups if they want to, and if there is no fire ban, because obviously if there is a total fire ban, the decision is largely taken out of our hands anyway. This would, if there was like a Chamber of Commerce or a community groups who wanted to find the funds and wanted to put on a New Year's Eve fireworks show, they would be able to do that. I don't think we actually have the power to stop that anyway, but that is not the intention of this resolution. This is a resolution that puts forward our view as a council that for this year, fireworks are not an appropriate way to mark the end of the year or Christmas carols as well. Yep. Oh, do we do the seconder speaking first? Hang on, is that right?
Move and seconder.
Yeah. So for Alphonse. Yeah. Okay. Questions at any time. Yeah. Okay.
Just two questions, because ultimately I'm in favour of this. But two questions. Firstly was about, is the excluding GST
Yeah,
to be specifically
Yeah,
in
maybe,
the motion?
I mean, those aren't my words. Why would we say excluding? Why wouldn't it be
Does that
inclusive
mean-
of GST?
Yeah,
The donation doesn't have GST.
Yeah.
it doesn't have it? That's
Sorry,
fine,
Mr
but-
Mayor, I actually drafted this and I was just in my bean counter mode, and I'm used to talking about inclusive or excluding GST, so you could delete that if you
Yeah,
want.
I'll be
It has
happy to take it out,
No
yeah.
impact.
And the second question was regarding point 1 about supporting New Year's celebrations, but without the direct or indirect use of council funding. Just for the clarification, because prior to any fire bans and prior to any consideration of fireworks, I had already used discretionary funds towards the Maryborough cricket club specifically for New Year's Eve fireworks. So I don't know how this would place me in that position.
Yeah, this wouldn't affect that. It's not retrospective. It would mean, though, that if you received if this passed, it would mean that if you received an application tomorrow, it would be ineligible, would be my view. But,
Correct.
but it doesn't impact on previous decisions, no.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Zoe. You go.
Is it a question?
No, you go first.
Well, is it a question?
Well, if it's a question, I want to speak to the amendment.
Yeah, we'll go to the seconder first. We're just doing questions at the moment,
Yeah, so point 3, who is going to seek the involvement of the rural fire brigades?
I think it's already happening, but the Fraser Coast Tourism and Events and perhaps the Brolga, the Friends of the Brolga.
So they're not council.
No, they're not.
I'm just trying to get my head around it. So is this that council will seek or the external parties, do you think?
Well,
that
the
it should
motion
be-
is that council seek to involve, but I imagine the person that picks up the phone might be a Fraser Coast Tourism and Events employee.
So, Mr Mayor?
Yep.
Mr Mayor, the way I interpret the resolution is that for council events, we would directly seek to involve the region's rural fire brigades in New Year's Eve event celebrations. And where it's a non-council event, we would be encouraging the promoters of those events to do likewise.
Councillor Light?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Congratulate you on this initiative. I think it's quite appropriate, shows good leadership from yourself. I fully support this this motion. We've seen the devastation that this country has faced and I think will face with this never recorded fire season. So out of respect for the victims and also out of the fantastic support and recognition, respect that we also have for the rural fire services, the volunteers, the fantastic job they do, and also the paid professionals. So I think it's very appropriate. Congratulations, you're putting it forward.
Councillor O'Keefe?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd also like to speak to the resolution and acknowledge Councillor Light's comments there. I'll be speaking to the resolution for different reasons, though. I think that, to be honest, my kids and I have always looked forward to New Year's Eve fireworks, and they've always been conducted in controlled environments and subject to strict conditions. I'm happy to see that council won't be directly or indirectly funding the fireworks, but I think the resolution seeks to find a good balance between allowing our community groups to make those decisions for themselves, and I'll be supporting the resolution.
Are there any further speakers? Councillor Lewis?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to vote for the resolution. I don't see a problem with the position we're taking, but I just think it's important to make the point, especially given that Councillor Light couched it in terms of respect to the fire brigades and respect to victims. I frankly don't see this in that light. I mean, it would be a problem if someone was proposing fireworks in circumstances where that constituted a danger, but I don't think anyone's proposing that. And I wouldn't like it thought that I accepted the proposition that if a community group chooses to exercise its right to conduct a fireworks event, that I felt they were disrespecting fire crews or fire victims. I don't see that connection, and I'm sure if the community people chose to do that, I wouldn't want them to think that I thought they were disrespecting people. But in terms of the resolution itself, I'm fine and I'll vote for it.
Are there any further speakers? Councillor Truscott?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to vote in support of this resolution. I think it's good, and it just clarifies the situation for a lot of people out there. I thank you for bringing it forward. There had been a lot of confusion in the community, I think, prior, and a lot of people up in arms about it, and specifically saying things like council needs to do this, and not understanding that it's not council as an organisation that was running, say, the Carols in the Park event, and it's not council that was buying those fireworks. It was sponsored by community organisations. So I think just to clarify that council wasn't necessarily doing that to begin with. I think some public took that out of hand, but I think this Firms Council's position, and I support that. And but yeah, I also support comments about fireworks do bring people out and they do bring people together and they are a fun occasion to watch. But I think in this situation, in this year, that this is the right move.
Are there any further speakers? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, that's carried unanimously. Is that- yeah.
I love fireworks.
The next item is the council ordinary meeting schedule for 2020, page 69.
Happy to move that, Mr Mayor.
So Councillor Everard is moving this for the, can I just ask a question? The 11th of March, we're going to be in the caretaker period. Can we actually schedule a meeting in the caretaker period?
Yes, we can. We can have a meeting, but we're not allowed to make major policy decisions, and major policy decisions are defined in the Act.
And what day does the caretaker period start?
The caretaker period starts, as I understand it, when the Electoral Commission declares that that an election is going to be held.
Okay.
Generally 6 weeks, but it could vary.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, okay.
I need to double check that, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lewis?
Just a question I wanted to make. A question. I think that will fall outside the pre-poll period. The
2
council
weeks,
is-
yeah, word, it says 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, we tend to be a bit distracted in pre-poll period. But, the elected members and the wanting to be elected members do. But if that's going to be prior to that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think we should be holding a meeting while people are actually voting. The 11th of March sounds like it's more than 2 weeks. There would have to be more than 2 weeks before the 28th. Yeah. So certainly nomination, it's about the time that nominations are closing. Yeah, we have to have one that month.
It's a statutory requirement
Yeah.
to have a meeting every month.
Every month, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the Ides of March.
Righto, I'm moving.
All right, is there any further questions? Councillor Everard is moving. Is there a seconder? Councillor Madden? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Well, the actual resolution is for 2020, so we could, well, yeah. Okay, council meeting attendance for December 2019, page 71.
Do an amendment to that?
Yeah, you can move an amendment.
No, sorry, with the budget meeting, is that?
Mr Mayor, as per what was highlighted to me earlier in the week, that we had omitted from the recommendation there the 1920 budget amendment workshop, which is planned for next Tuesday, the 3rd of December at 1:30 p.m. So if I could ask the councillor making the motion to add that item.
Yeah. Councillor Everard is moving that. Is there a seconder? Councillor Maddern, any questions about what's been added? No? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.2. What's that?
She's got that in there.
Yeah. Item 10.2.3, the public Wi-Fi review, page 73. Are you moving this? On page 73, is there a seconder? Councillor O'Keefe. I know Councillor Truscott wants to speak to this.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I think this is a good initiative for our council to trial. It's not something new. It is new to our region to cement it further into what we can offer to the public, but it's certainly not new to Queensland or around the area. I think it's something that's helpful for people, for public that need internet access, for tourists visiting our area. I understand there's implications we have to look into for things like surrounding businesses, but honestly, I think it's that available now in public places that it's almost where isn't it now. So I think it's also good that local suppliers will also be able to tender for this. To my understanding from the CEO that it's not just the only one that's mentioned in the report here, the actual one called pop-up Wi-Fi, but there are people in our community that I understand that may be able to offer this, and when that service is available for expressions of interest or to tender, I look forward to seeing that result. As the mover of this, was it Zane that seconded?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about whether we'd be open to, in point 2, to add a second location for a trial in Harvey Bay as well. Whether you'd be open to that?
I'm sure he is. Yeah. So it could be, and a Harvey Bay to be determined.
To be determined, yeah. I'm thinking somewhere.
And it could be the cultural centre.
Could be the cultural, could be like a pier, the adventure playground, wherever, like somewhere that a lot of people are going to visit.
Yeah.
So I think simply just to add at Town Hall Green and a Harvey Bay location to be determined.
In
That sounds better.
I don't think you could legally make it be determined by the mayor.
No.
The only legal aid could be determined by the CEO.
In consultation with councillors.
I'm not sure if that one's typing, Marlene, or...
You've got the different on the screen.
To be determined by the... Yeah. That sounds great. Thank you for that.
Are you finished? Yeah, okay. Councillor O'Keefe, did you wish to speak to this? No? Any further speakers? Can I just ask, are we going to have the pop-up Wi-Fi at any events this year, like the carols this year, like we did last year?
Mr Mayor, I can't honestly answer that. I'll have to take that on notice, or if the Director of Organisational Services can answer that.
I'm not aware that specific arrangements have been made for that yet, but it was certainly a matter identified for consideration last year, and this recommendation, I guess, looks to us to include, the planning for pop-up Wi-Fi at those large-scale events. So we'll certainly initiate that dialogue if it hasn't already been considered.
I was just going to say, it's a great thought, considering a number of those high-profile events are happening within the next few weeks. Yeah.
Notice how much time they spend on social media.
Okay, that's moved by Councillor Truscott, seconded by Councillor O'Keefe. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed?
While they're waiting for the
It's carried unanimously. Item 10.2.4, the amended council media policy, page 91.
Aren't we?
Yeah, we got to move that.
Yep.
Do you want to move that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. What am I moving?
We're not going on.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to propose an alternate motion for this one, for 10.2.4, that the report be referred back to the Chief Executive Officer to allow further consultation and engagement with councillors.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Maddern. Any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.2.5, the Auditor General's Observation Report for 2018-2019 on page 110.
Mayor, I'm happy to move the the officer's recommendation, which I... No, Mr Mayor, I think it's self-explanatory when you read the attachment.
All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Yeah. Item 10.2.6, the Delegations Register Update on page 124. And the recommendation is on page 124. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Lewis, is there a seconder? Councillor Everard, did you wish to speak to this? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously.
We didn't get an
Sorry?
Aye.
Yeah, I heard him, yeah. Item 10.2.7, the organizational performance report for October, page 131. Councillor Mattern?
Mr Mayor, I had some questions that I believe the officer was to bring back to the meeting. Page 135, the cash balance. Why to both the...
Through you, Mr Mayor, I must apologise, Councillor, I haven't had the opportunity to get responses to those questions for you today, but I can certainly circulate after the meeting. There were two questions that I captured there around the capital revenue and also around the cash balances. So I apologise that I don't have that information with us today.
For the benefit of the meeting, can you just outline what the questions are that, so we're certain? That's right.
So in...
Page 136 in capital revenue.
I haven't had that on the whole time. My apologies, Stuart. I was just seeking a bit of background as to why that, have we done some background work on that?
And,
Yes, Mr Mayor, I have those questions.
are there any further questions on this report? Is there a mover received and noted? Councillor Everard, seconded by Councillor Light. I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.2.8, request for lease renewals and extension. The Harvey Bay Historical Society and Museum, who are holding their carols this Saturday. This is on page 146. The recommendation is on page 147. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Light, seconded by Councillor Mattern. Are there any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed?
Aye.
That's carried unanimously. Item 10.2.9, request for lease for Sandy Straits Rural Fire Brigade at Puna, page 150. Councillor Madden? Yeah, or does Daniel want to? Yeah. This is moved by Councillor Madden, seconded by Councillor Everard. Did you wish to speak to it? No. I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.2.10, request for extension to lease area, Nikenbar Progress Association. Councillor Hanson?
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Look, I'd like to move that this matter lay on the table. And I'll speak to that if you wish.
Did we change the standing orders where you give a justification? Yeah. Okay. I think you can just go straight into it, can't you?
So it's a procedure.
Where we don't take a vote immediately, because we had a situation where we took a vote immediately because it was a procedural, but I don't think we do that now. I think we allow them to speak on it. Yeah, I know. That's the problem we had a while ago. Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's entirely inconsistent
Yeah.
to speak
Okay.
to it, but
Yeah.
then to put it to the vote, but
Yeah.
no debate.
Yeah. Councillor Hanson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Chairman. I think this should lay on the table, given the fact that Councillor Chapman is away on leave at the moment. He's the most involved councillor with this project. He's also been in discussion with me, and he said that he has some information which may sway other councillors in the way they vote. I'd like to give him his democratic right to voice his concerns and represent his community. I don't see any time urgency with this. I don't think it needs to be dealt with this month, and it can be dealt with in the December meeting.
Are there any questions or speakers? Is there any, it doesn't appear to be on the surface that there's any timing issues. There's no, particularly with the recommendation as it is, there's no prejudice to the party involved, so I can't see any timing issue. I'm just opening it up. I don't think there is. Okay, any further speakers? I put the motion that the matter lay on the table. Is that right? That's what you moved, is it? Yep. All in favor? You there,
Nay.
Stuart? Yeah. All opposed?
I vote no.
Okay, that's carried 9-1. The next item is lease request, Fraser Coast Training, Employment and Support Services on page 159. Councillor Hanson is moving the recommendation on page 159. Is there a seconder? Councillor Truscott, did you wish to speak to this? No? Are there any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.2.12 is the lease request for the Wuku Historical Society on page 162. The recommendation is on page 162 for a 10-year lease. Is there a move for that? Councillor Hanson, seconded by Councillor Maddern. This is one of the best museums on the Fraser Coast. Is there, Councillor Hanson can speak about it?
I absolutely agree, Mr Chairman. Having lived up there all my life, and those people are very passionate about the history of the former Wuku Council, and we should give them all the support they deserve.
Okay. It's actually got, within the leased area, the original council chambers, which is smaller than this area in the middle of us. Yeah. Are there any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any
Aye.
opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.2.13 is the lease request for the Maryborough and District Animal Refuge Society Incorporated. That's page 165. Councillor Truscott's moving and Councillor Sanderson seconding. No? Yes? That's the recommendation from page 165 to 166. Did you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, just briefly, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to say, I think this is a great organisation that are doing really good things with looking after animals in our community. They've done a great job, and it had come to our attention a while back that they didn't actually have a proper lease in place, so it's good that we can cement this in place for them, and so that they know they've got their foundation there with us, and just like to congratulate them on the job they're doing.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Next item is item 10.2.14, the lease request for the Maryborough Clay Target Club Incorporated on page 169. That recommendation is on page 169 with the area on page 171. Is there Councillor Everard's moving that? Seconded by Councillor Truscott. Are there any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. The next item is item 10.2.15, lease request for the Tugum Fishing Club on page 172. This is moved by Councillor Light. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Hanson. Are there any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. The next item, for a change of content, is item 10.3.1, application for development impact assessment material change of use at the King Horden Road, Granville, for a timber, page 175.
Mr Mayor, if I could just interrupt, I have to table the document on this matter. It's exactly the same report, except it includes the public notification issues and comments that was requested by councillors, and this document has been forwarded to councillors for their consideration prior to this meeting. So I'll table that as part of the agenda item.
Can you table something?
Well, you can table it.
Yeah,
I asked for it, so I'm happy to table.
yeah. Okay. Do you need, is that a motion though, that something?
No,
to
no,
table?
no,
Okay,
no,
okay.
just noted.
Okay, noted, okay. Are there any, is there a mover for this or any questions? Councillor
Mr
Madden?
Mayor,
Your move,
I'll move the officer's recommendation.
recommendation, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Everard, did you wish to speak to this?
No, it's fairly self-explanatory in the report, but I did take time to go through the comments from through the what is it? The publication. There's the word about it. Yeah, public submissions. I did go through those public submissions, and I have been watching it. I'm confident that we're meeting all our obligations. And that the majority of the obligations lay with the state government. They're not ones that we have control over. So I think it's important that we abide by our own town planning scheme and approve this recommendation. If there are issues, they are Department of the Environment and Science. We shouldn't be preempting something on the basis of a decision that needs to be taken by a different authority.
Councillor Everard, are there any speakers? I'll put the motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Sanderson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Following on from Councillor Madden's comments about us abiding by everything that we need to do as a local government, when I've heard from constituents in the nearby area there, some of those conditions have been challenged and raised that they aren't being met. Can I ask the Director of Development Community if we are, or we have a list, or because we have dealt with this before in past years, and it's a similar MCU change, but are we meeting those conditions, or is there conditions that haven't been met that need to be advised, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Sanderson. It's definitely clear from, I suppose, the submitters on this specific application, but also from the contact we've had from nearby residents, that there remains concern about the current activities as well as future activities. And there have been reports of things happening that ideally wouldn't, in terms of deliveries before very early in the morning to the site. The parking has been a significant issue outside the site. It is our expectation that if this approval goes ahead and is complied with, and all of the conditions are complied with, particularly around the bituming and the car parking and the like, that it should reduce the impacts on the residents. But obviously that's going to require the applicant to comply with those requirements, and it's going to require us and, more importantly, I think, as previously mentioned, the Department of Environment and Science to ensure compliance with the activity, with the conditions, because there have been things where residents have reported that there hasn't been strict compliance in the past.
Yep. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.3.2, the minor change, proposed medical centre at Tony Street, Rankin, page 204. Is there a mover for that recommendation from 205 to 206? Councillor O'Keefe, seconded by Councillor Everard. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor O'Keefe?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just want to acknowledge the work that our officers have put into this resolution, and also acknowledge that the medical practice is, like many medical practices across the Fraser Coast, are struggling to meet the daily needs of their customers. And I think this strikes a very good balance, as it's a temporary condition, and I'll be supporting the condition.
Is there any further speakers? Yep, Councillor Lewis.
I just wanted to clarify whether the motion as proposed includes that correction of the typographical error in paragraph 1C, where it should refer to deleting condition 35, not 34.
Not 34. So,
Page 206.
Can you just go down a bit, Marlene?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Madden? Yeah, down C, one bit further. Yeah,
Yep.
that should be 35, you're saying? Oh, 30.
Yes, I think that should be, as I understand from the discussions the other day, it should be 35.
Oh, I
We've
see,
already
yeah.
deleted 34 in the preceding subparagraph.
Okay.
James can confirm whether it's valid.
Yeah, Jamie, sorry, Jamie's getting right to.
B should be delete condition 34 and replace with new condition 34. Yeah. C should be delete condition 35 and replace with new condition 35.
Yeah,
Delete existing condition 35.
Yeah.
yeah.
Delete existing condition 35 and replace with new condition 35. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Are there any further questions or speakers?
Mr.
Oh,
Mayor,
yeah,
I'm just
Councillor
going to say that I've put a lot of thought into this one, and I'm uncomfortable on the basis of amenity for the residents in the area. I see both sides of the argument, but in this particular occasion, I think I have to come down on the side of the residents. So I'm concerned about the increased commercial activity in what was a residential area.
Are there any further speakers?
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I'll be opposing this on the same basis as Councillor Madden.
Yep. Any further speakers? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed?
Aye.
That'll be 2. Sorry, 2.
Six, three.
Oh, sorry, and Stuart's, yeah. So why can't I count? So that should add up to 10. So all in favour? 1, 2, so 4, 5, 6, 7 in favour. Sorry, 7 in favour and 3 opposed. Sorry. That's right. Yeah, that's carried. The next item is item 10.3.3, Torquefest held at the Maryborough Showgrounds, page 246. The recommendation is on page 246 that it be noted, and note that a review of events application process is underway and the appropriateness of events such as Torquefest at the MSEP is considered as part of this process. This is moved by Councillor Hanson, seconded by Councillor Sanderson. Are there any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.3.4, page 249, is the endorsement of the Fraser Coast Regional Council and Fraser Coast Property Industry Association Memorandum of Understanding.
Is this one, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. This is moved by Councillor Everard. Is there a seconder? Yeah. Seconded by Councillor O'Keefe. Do you wish to speak to us? Yeah. Any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Item 10.3.5, request for funding, Councillor Discretionary Fund Event Horse Spectacular, page 257.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
I'd like to
okay. Make sure it's on speaker, so Stuart.
Yeah, sorry, Stuart. The alternative motion that the report be referred back to the Chief Executive Officer to consider the application of the Councillor Discretionary Funds Policy, particularly with respect to the definition of a community organisation as provided in section 202 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Move that motion.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that. Did you wish to speak to it?
Other than there's some complications around this which I think need to address further, and I would be uncomfortable voting on this at this particular point in time. So referring it back to the CEO allows us the opportunity to have further discussions to bring forward something that I would hopefully feel comfortable about adopting.
That's right. And I agree. Either an application meets the guidelines and it should be approved, or it doesn't. I'm not. Oh, and certainly if it comes here, which should be very clearly explained why it doesn't, so we can consider it. But I'm of the view that, yeah, that for this type of funding grant, it either meets the guidelines or it doesn't. Are there any further speakers?
Just a question to the CEO.
Yep.
This similar application was made and it went through the discretionary fund policy and was approved. Can you advise why the application has proceeded differently this time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Good question. I believe this report probably should not have come to council. The concern raised by the officer was that the definition of community organisation, and does FCTE meet the definition of a community organisation, and the officer felt that it didn't and put it to council to make a determination on it. I think where we failed is that if an officer believed it didn't meet the definition, we shouldn't be putting it to council to determine whether it's got the definitions. So we're asking that it go back. Why did the previous one go through? That was before the CCC audit, and I think it's fair to say that since the CCC has done an audit and has ticked off on the use of council discretionary funds, it has raised concerns about being more stringent in terms of the application of the policy. So I think staff might have been a little bit gun shy about that and have put it to council. So I've asked that it come back to me to consider, particularly with respect to the definition of community organisation.
Is there another part of the policy that refers to providing funding using discretionary funds to the council or to Fraser Coast tourism events?
No, there isn't an element in the policy that specifically talks about Fraser Coast tourism and events.
Have you got the policy in front of you?
No, I did it from memory, but I'll have to call it up. And that may take a little while.
That's all right, we're not going anywhere.
Thanks. Okay, I've opened the policy. I'm just having a quick read. I can't see a specific mention of Fraser Coast tourism and events.
I don't see anything.
Mr. Mayor, there is no, I've just did a word search on it, there is no reference to Fraser Coast tourism and events.
No. No. Okay, were there any, so did you hear that, Councillor Taylor? We do have the policy, the one that was amended in June 2018. It's the version I have, version 6, and it makes no mention of Fraser Coast tourism and events.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have the motion that it be referred, moved by Councillor Madden, seconded by myself. Are there any further questions or speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. The next item is item 10.4.1, the Local Disaster Management Plan on page 259. There's a recommendation that we adopt the plan on page 259, moved by Councillor Light, seconded by Councillor Madden. Did you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a great opportunity to endorse this plan that has taken some time with some great assistance or help from a very good consultant, Warren, who I had a lot of time with. Basically, this plan has reduced 50% of repetition in the previous plan. It makes it a lot easier to refer to the plan. It makes it much more logical. Disaster management plans are a moving document. It needs to evolve with different state legislation, national legislation, and changing environment that we're facing. So I would like to thank the staff, I'd like to thank the consultant, and certainly put this plan up for endorsement. Thank you.
Councillor Madden.
Yes, I'd like to speak to this too. Disaster management is one of our critical areas of work of the council, and I think to have a document that's user-friendly. I've come into this is my first term in council, came in as Chair of Recovery. I tell you, that's a very daunting experience when you looked at the size of the document that we had to deal with, and in the consultation process around developing up this new plan, the key focus has been on making it user-friendly, so a document that you can quickly grab off the shelf in a very short space of time, under duress, in a pressure situation, and just hit the road running, because you can see exactly what you've got to do, when you've got to do it, who's doing it. I think it's a great document for our community, and I'd highly it would be a public document. I'd highly recommend that people understand just how this whole process works.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. The next item is item 10.5.1, the Wide Bay Water and Waste Services Quarterly Report, page 315. Councillor Everard's moving this. Councillor Madden's seconding this. Did you wish to speak to this? Yeah.
Document speaks for itself.
Yep.
Good job, Director Madden.
Yes.
And team.
Councillor Madden? Yeah. If there are no speakers or questions, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Any opposed?
Aye.
That's carried unanimously. The next item is item 10.5.2 on page 332, Fraser Coast Drought Management. Councillor Madden?
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move this resolution, but I would like to just address a question to the Director, and it's not for my own purposes, but for purposes of the general community. So this brings in, or will bring in, a tightening up of the watering hours. The question that I'm asking on behalf of the community and asking you to express is, do council parks and offices have to comply with exactly the same water regulations? Oh, right, which Director?
What is it?
Through
Yeah,
you,
yeah, compliance.
Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Madden. I think my colleague could have answered it as well, but the answer is yes. So we will comply with the same restrictions that members of the general public. I just would point out that there are occasions where we could seek exemptions if we have new parks projects, where we've laid new turf and it needs a run-in period. But the reality is, members of the public can do that as well, where there's, where it's required. But that would be, the rare occasion.
So if we were going to seek an exemption, we would go through the same sort of pathway as a member of the public?
Yes, that's correct. We'll go through the same process with Wide Bay Water.
The other question that I'd like to put in this particular circumstance, in the necessity to seek an exemption, is there a capacity then to use the treated effluent water which we actually currently use on cane farms, etc.?
I might defer to Nicole.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Council, for the question. So certainly there are in some circumstances. So our Parks Department is registered with our effluent reuse team, and so there's an agreement in place where they can periodically access tankered water, where the tanker drivers also have the similar conditions in place. The exemption process that we mentioned earlier is certainly available for businesses, and particularly with council operations having a public health need as well, and so it's not unusual for us to issue exemptions for cleaning of public barbecues and public toilets and the like as well. So we tackle it on a number of fronts, but the process is consistent with how any member of the public would apply and be assessed.
So on that basis, I'm happy to move this resolution.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Everard? Did you wish to speak to it?
No, I think it's necessary. We're in a very dry period. We're being preemptive. I mean, having listened to the ABC and a lot of the weather stuff, we are very, very fortunate in our community with the level of water that's in our dams, but they are going down and they are going down rapidly. I think it's important that we be preemptive and be careful with our water use.
Did you wish to speak? I'll speak briefly to it. I think this is a very necessary and appropriate step. Right now, our water supplies for Harvey Bay at Lentils are in the mid-60s, and our water supplies for Maryborough at Teddington are in the mid-80s. So we're certainly not at a crisis, but those are going down steadily, and there's very little water going in. So there's, you know, an obvious outcome there, which requires that we make sure that we treat the water preciously. And a lot of these restrictions relate to outdoor use, which is where we know the, I guess, the discretionary water usage is. Note where this isn't about showers, this isn't about drinking water or cooking water. On Saturday, 30 megalitres of water was used in Harvey Bay. On Friday, 23. You know, people aren't drinking more on Saturdays. The difference was Saturday. Unless they're all in the Harvey Bay Handy. But so the difference between that's 7 megalitres. An Olympic-sized swimming pool is 2.5 megalitres, I believe. So that's, you know, that's largely going on lawns and pot plants. And which is what these restrictions try to address, to make sure that people are watering at the best possible times, which obviously are after sunset and before sunrise. I think we do need to, you know, down the track, look at how we use water. I'm certainly actively looking at water tanks, how we can, whether it is not to require them on new builds, at least certainly incentivize the use of water tanks again, not plumbed in, but for people's gardens, and other measures to be more water smart. I know that we've got some reviews going into the future into water supply, and that's something that, you know, that's very timely. But I certainly support these, this raising to level 2. We're just about at the trigger point, and I think by the time these come in on December 9th, we will be at the trigger point. So it's very timely that we look at it now, given the dry forecast, the fact that we've been so far below the average rain since July, and I'm sure you could go back many more calendar months where we've been far below. So it's a very appropriate time. I mean, it's not, you know, there'll be people that are upset about this. I've already got emails about people who want to water their pot plants, but as you see elsewhere in Queensland, there's places where they're going to have to start trucking in water. The most important thing for water is for health, particularly for human health, and these restrictions impact largely sprinklers on lawns and taps outside. So I think it's very appropriate when the water is dropping by about 1% per week across the Fraser Coast, and the Harvey Bay supplies are already in the mid-60s. So I support this motion. Are there any further speakers? So who is this? This is moved by Count Madden, seconded by Councillor Everard. I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously.
Mr Mayor, I'm leaving the room.
I've got to wait for general business.
You've got one in confidential that you're leaving the room for. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm looking at what's in.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So we're in general business. Was there any general business? Did you?
Yeah, there is general business. So, Mr Mayor, at your request, I prepared the draft resolution that's on the screen in response to the presentation today relating to the banning of plastic bags and single-use plastic straws for Council's consideration.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I called for general business and I didn't get anyone. Yeah. Yeah. So I move. Let me just have a look at. Yeah. So this is comes out presentation to us this morning, and I think it's you know that's good that we're taking those steps at the Baralga Theatre. I guess there's probably nobody here that can tell us if the phasing out is due because we already had some boxes. I assume we're not ordering any more plastic straws if we're trialling yes?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So staff have been working on a plan, and so they met last month, and so the plan was already in place to move away from the straws at all our venues, but we're not actively using them, but we do have some supplies.
Yep. And then section 2, we have, I guess, a custom which comes out of our standing orders, but more about good deliberation, that we don't come here and immediately make a decision about whether it's financial or policy. So this allows a report to come to us, preferably at the next meeting, so we can make a decision, and we can look at what Bundaberg and Cairns are doing. And I presume a lot of that would be about, say, a stall holder's application to be at Food and Groove or at another event. It would say, you know, do you use single-use plastic? Is that right? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My understanding is that not only council events, where the council conducts the events, but if the council is a supporter of events in terms of contributions, then that contribution should require, amongst other things, the required absence of single-use plastics. And we quite often put conditions with our on events, and one of the conditions that is standard now is to ensure that we have disability access and appropriate other condition that would be attached to our support.
Mr Mayor, I've just got one
Yep.
question on that, and it's probably a question that needs to be addressed later on in the report, but one of the issues that we have is in some events we're required to provide water, and water comes in plastic bottles.
Yeah.
There's a dichotomy there, you know,
Yeah.
it's one of those issues that we're
And
going to have to deal with.
that would come in the report.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to find some way around that eventually. But I mean, I'm just thinking about, you know, the Relay for Life. They turned up with crates of water, which I think they could have got around easily. You know, it's in a single site. But yeah, no, that would be something we'd have to weigh up and look at. Yeah.
And the event I'm talking about is RIDA, and the state government, because they have some funding in it, are
Yeah.
insisting that a bottle of water be provided for every student at that event.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the state government's also got an issue around single-use plastics.
Yeah. Director Caroline?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, councillors. I am aware of some other councils who have actually, through the water partnerships between their water businesses and their community services and events departments, have actually addressed that issue through some infrastructure where the water business will hire out water stations, so you can actually take along to an event a big tank, and people actually fill their own water bottles with proper potable water. So some councils have already overcome that issue through some creative thinking. So there are some options we can look at to overcome that.
So you've just killed my general business question.
Yeah. Councillor Truscott?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'm fully supportive of this initiative. I think it's great, and thank you, Iluka, for bringing it forward. You may be interested to know we actually did start this in February of 2018 as well. We brought it forward, so it has been something that has been at the front of council's mind. I know I always carry a refillable water bottle with me because I think it's great. I don't, even though it is plastic, but it is reusable. So I don't want to be using single-use plastics where possible. So fully support this initiative.
Yep. So is there a seconder for this? Councillor Truscott? Any further speakers? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Is there any more general business? Yes, Councillor Truscott?
This might be the last time that people get to see this glorious
Thank God.
moustache. I know the mayor's been very disturbed by it, but if you haven't donated to Movember yet, I could strongly urge people to do that. Our Director of Infrastructure is also sporting a charming moustache there, but it's a great cause supporting men's health for men's mental health, prostate cancer and testicular cancer. So I just want to get that plug in there for Movember. It is a great cause for men's health.
Yeah, to run and go.
September.
Yeah.
September.
Yeah, Councillor Everard?
Yeah, I'd just like to, in general business, acknowledge the work that the staff did with assisting with the Harvey Bay 100 on the weekend for those poor souls who suffered in Paradise. Feedback from the visitors who attended that event was first class again. Well, they didn't like the waves on Sunday. That was a bit of a problem. But look, there were a number of council officers from other areas there, and they were really impressed with how Harvey Bay in particular is looking, even though it is a little bit dry, but those officers acknowledge the good work that our guys have done in the park. So if pass that on via the director. Oh, and also the Triathlon Club for the great job they did as volunteers to bring a couple of thousand people to town.
Yeah, it was a fantastic weekend. Yeah, a lot of events, yeah. Any further general business? If not, we'll need a motion that we go into confidential under Local Government Regulation 2012, that we be close to 2751H, Section 2751G. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Everard, seconded Councillor Truscott. All in favour? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Yeah, that was seconded by Paul. Okay, yeah, during confidential, we discussed items 15.1 and 15.2 under section 72751H and 2751G of the local government regulation. We'll move now to section 15.1, request for memorial Anzac Park, Maryborough. This motion is moved by myself, Councillor Seymour, and seconded by Councillor Truscott. Can we get it up on the screen? Do we have this motion of mine? Otherwise, I can read it. This is my alternate motion. Yeah, this is 15.1, the alternate motion. Yeah. I'm moving this because I believe it is appropriate and important for the family of a deceased person to be given the opportunity to recognise and memorialise a place where the person has passed away, even if it is on council property. Did you wish to speak to this, seconder?
Just happy to reiterate your comments there, Mr. Mayor.
If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour? 4, 5, 6, 7. And what was yours, Councillor Taylor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote in favour.
8 in favour. All opposed? That's 1. That's carried 8-1. The next item is item 15.2, and Councillor Madden is returning to the room. Councillor Everard.
Yes, I'd like to move a procedural motion that this matter lay on the table, please.
I'll put the motion. All in favour?
I'm in favour.
Yeah. All opposed? That's carried unanimously. I believe that's all the items on the agenda, if that is correct. If that is so, I close the meeting at 12 noon. Thank you.